Hello, the purpose of today's Anytime Anywhere workshop is to talk about the content system in Blackboard and permissions. Sometimes you may, as a distance instructor, encounter an incident where your students are telling you that they cannot view a graphic that you have that you've placed in your course from the content system. And you may check your links and they're fine, and it may look just fine and open to you. However, your students may not be able to view it, and it isn't because the permissions or anything else are wrong. It's just that from semester to semester you need to adjust the permissions so that that new class can view the stuff that's in your content system. So I was going to show you quickly how you can go about doing that. Now, the content system in Blackboard 7 is called My Files. It used to be called the content system. They've changed it to be called My Files. So when you come into My Files, locate the folder where the image is that the students cannot see this semester, and come over and modify that particular folder. And when you click Modify, you'll notice that there is a permissions link. So click on the permissions link, and this is the permissions for that particular folder. So you can see by what I have listed here that I have three things that can see my particular folder. But the class that I'm particularly interested in is not in this list. And what that means is that those particular students are not allowed to view that particular graphic because of the permissions on this particular folder, and so they see a broken graphic red X icon. So here's how to solve that. Up here in the top right corner there's a drop-down menu that says Course User List with a plus. So this is where you add different courses that can use this particular folder full of information. In this particular instance, my folder is a folder full of images that I'm giving permission to. So we use this little drop down, and you can select an organization or make it public, but we're most interested right now in a course. So we're going to be using Course User List, and then we'll click Go to make a list appear. So you as the instructor then would have every course listed here that you are currently teaching, and then you should find that particular course and make sure that there is a checkbox for it. This will give the students that are enrolled in that particular section, which is a different section from last semester, and that's why the permissions are not there. So select all the courses that apply, that you would like to have permissions to view the information that's in this particular folder that we are modifying. And you'll need to give them a role. In this instance, they would be the role of student. And then you also need to assign what permissions they will have. And in this particular instance, we don't want them to write or remove or manage the information, but just read the information. So that's why read here is checked. So now that we've made those selections, come down and click your submit button, and you'll notice now that there is an additional line showing who has permission to read, and that's what this column here is indicating, the information in the folder that we just modified. So we'll click OK, and this is the permissions that we clicked on it originally, and we'll click OK again. And here we are back in our content system, and this was the folder that I just modified the permissions for. So if you have students saying that they have images they cannot see, chances are you need to come in to the folder where the images are located in your content system and modify that particular folder's permissions. So when you click Modify, you will click Permissions, and if you do not see that particular class, come up to where it says Add a Course and click Go and select the course that you are currently teaching, because apparently it is not in the list. Make sure it has a role, and make sure you have Read Permissions Only, and then click Submit. And that is a review of how you can upgrade the permissions on a particular folder if you have students that complain that those particular images are not visible and you seem to think everything else should be working. So when you go back into your course, if you were to log in as TN student, then that particular information would give you student permissions, and you could then test to see whether or not that particular image is visible to you as a student, because it's going to be visible to you as an instructor because you have read and write and manage permissions for everything that's in your particular content system. So take a look at the permissions if you have students complaining about images.